So are you ready to start, Bestie?
I believe our first game of today is gonna be. Okay, it's which is it call him Cross or Chris? Chris? Chris versus AVUltima. One day we'll get his name right.
Alright, so we'll be looking at their second game in their series. And starting in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so it looks like for this game, Cjros started with squirrels, toads, chameleons, ferrets, wolf, and balloon. And AVUltima has a similar build, except he has lizards instead of toads, and skunks instead of the chameleons. So what do you think of the map here?
Alright, so looking around the map, it's actually very interesting. All the expansions that either player can go for are all on the edges of the map, so there won't be any actual expansion contentions unless both teams decide to commit towards the edges of the map. Otherwise, I feel like we're going to see most of our engagements here in the flatland in the middle with all these, where the trees are, as you can see. Yeah. It's like a nice little donut.
Yeah, so these flatlands, there's not many chokes for AVUltima to use his skunks very effectively.
Well, no, but if Cjros decides to amass a lot of tier 1 units, they can still be pretty effective, especially if he places them like across the river or something, or up on a hilltop.
Alright, so we've seen a bit of divergence in opening builds. AVUltima went for 8 farms before placing 1 warren, and Cjros has started 2 warrens before and hasn't built his 8th farm yet. So now he's building his 3rd warren. So he's a bit ahead on his army value, but he's a bit behind on his economy. So if it drags out, he will start to be in a bit of a disadvantage.
There's one sort of advantage to this I've seen some players do, is that they leave that extra farm open just in case it goes to a base race war. And if you can prevent starvation by at least having 1 farm, that's actually a pretty good way. So you sort of lose behind economy in the early game, but if the game ever drags on to late game, it could be pretty darn useful. And considering the builds that both teams are going for, that could be a possibility, especially since there's no like real terrain issues for either side.
Yeah. Another thing to note is Cjros' base is up on a hilltop, and AVUltima doesn't have any high ground vision except for balloons in his build, and there isn't really all that nearby for him to get territory to build that balloon. So if he tries to attack, he's going to have to put his commander up there for the vision.
He does have a nice access to cross his bottom entrance. As you can see, there's some slopes that he can cross over there behind where the warrens are. So that's a good way for him to access that base if ever needed. We do see that AVUltima is going to go for that expansion first right now. And he does have his army all the way going. He's already heading towards that bottom area that I just mentioned, with a huge platoon of lizards and squirrels.
So he takes out a few pigs, and Cjros is a little slow to respond, but now he's got his chameleon out in front, and it's just hitting all the units and taking 1 shot. And it stealths at 1 HP and gets away. That would have been a huge loss if it went down. But since it stayed up, he's in quite a sizable advantage right now in terms of army value. He did lose 2 farms.
Yeah, if we take a quick look at the army value graph, we can see there's a huge dip where, unfortunately, AVUltima just lost a huge number of units there. But he does have the farm to back up, so he can quickly regain those units, so it's not too much of a loss. He did take out 2 farms from Cross, so it is going to damage his economy game.
Yeah, AVUltima is a bit ahead expanding economy-wise. Not only did he take out 2 farms, he's also started 2 farms already, whereas Cjros is only now starting his 2nd mill. So if this game goes late, AVUltima will be in a sizable advantage. But right now, Cjros is coming across the map for a counterattack, and he's got a much larger army value because AVUltima, instead of rebuilding his army, started expanding economically.
The lizard aggro is messing things up for AVUltima's army a bit, but he doesn't lose any units there, so that's a little bit lucky for him.
Oh, but Cjros has found the expansion. He's swinging his units on the outside. AVUltima's a little slow to respond. Some good toad hits, but the mill goes down. And AVUltima is now in a bit of trouble. his army is mostly picked off, and Cjros still has a reasonable force, but he's going to back off for now and regroup his forces to make a stronger push.
I mean, we're not at the 5-minute point, so AVUltima still has some farm to work with right now. He is most likely going to try to work back towards getting that mill, another mill up.
He's starting to build a wolf warren right now, so he's going to try to maybe make a final push with that wolf instead of re-expanding to try to end it on his one base.
I'm slightly worried about that because Cjros has a lot of toads and he's going for chameleons right now, and that can still deter a lot of tier 1 rush even with the wolf buff.
Yeah. The wolf relies on having a lot of units around him, but if you take out a sizable amount of those units early on with the toad AoE and the first strike of the chameleons, it can really cripple the amount of damage that the wolf can do.
Oh, I like what Cjros is doing here right now. He's at the bottom, behind AVUltima's base, and AVUltima doesn't notice that, but Cjros is going for the warrens at this moment. He's not going to let that wolf come out.
Those warrens
and down go all the warrens.
AVUltima surrenders. Cjros wins. All right. So that was a pretty good game.
I think it was a really good call for Cjros to go for toads like that. I think commonly what we see in the meta right now is a lot of people like to build up a lot of tier 1 units, mass them up into death balls, and use a wolf to just power them up. But with Cjros bringing toads along, it just stops a lot of that huge mass aggression.
Yeah, he took a bit of a risk building tier 2 units so early in the chameleons, but it really paid off for him because he got full value out of it because it was able to take down units right away, and then it absorbed the maximum amount of damage it could, and before re-stealthing and pulling away, he did a really good job of microing that chameleon to get the best use out of it as he could, and I think it did a lot to stop that early aggression.
Quick thing